let's work on a head control. One thing that is also very important when rigging your characters that you want to keep in mind is how a certain part of the character's body should move. Okay, so that takes just studying movement, going to a park or wherever you like, and just studying how the body moves. You could even study yourself and from that come up with controls that will be able to manipulate the character naturally. So for the head, what are we going to need? Well, for one, we're of course going to need to rotate the head, and we're also going to want a chicken neck effect out of the neck. The neck doesn't really rotate. That's going to move along with our chest. We're going to want that, especially being the type of build that this character has. So knowing that we want the head to rotate and we want a chicken neck effect going out of the neck, and that all rhymes, so that was pretty cool. But knowing all of that, we're going to set up controls accordingly. So what we'll first start by doing is making a head control. We can go up to create, and we can go to our CV curve tool, check out the options, and make sure it's just set to linear, which it should be already. From there we can come out of that, and I like to go to the top view. Let's go there and draw out a control that looks like a simple headpiece, nothing much at all. Basic but still interesting enough. Okay, so what we can do for this is just snap to grid. So we'll snap to one point, snap to the point in front of that, the point adjacent to it, and the point right back to our horizontal point on our grid. Now before we hit enter, let's go to our front view now and continue this to finish it. Starting from where we left our last point, we'll go right underneath it, right next to that point, and right up. If we hit enter and check it out in our perspective view, we should get this interesting looking yet basic headpiece. So we can center its pivot and snap it so that it will be right where we want the head to be controlled from. That's going to be our head bone. So we'll hold V and middle mouse button, click and drag to bring it there. Great. And now we're not going to want our head control where it's at, right in the character's back. So let's go ahead and move that. We can go to the side view, go to our verts and our component mode, bring up our control. So it looks like a little, almost like a headrest. And we can select these back points, maybe bring them back some more. Again, just giving it a little design, not much at all. Bringing this point a little bit more in. Okay, the 2 points at the back. And we can select these 2 points at the top. Scale those in a little bit. And scale the back in a bit more. Okay, nothing much at all. So here is our head control. What we can do is freeze its transformations. Now let's give it a name. We can call you the CC underscore head 01. Great, it's named. And as far as what we're going to want it to be controlled by, since again this character's stubby build, we're going to want it directly controlled by our chest. Okay, so knowing that, we can, with it selected, just shift select our chest and hit P. Great, so now that that has been done, of course we're not going to want to scale or even use the visibility of this object, so we can just get rid of those, lock and hide, to clean up this control. What we will add is a jaw control, and since this is more like one of those silent film type of characters, he's not really going to be talking. But that jaw control also helps for when it comes to weighting the jaw. I really like to do that, and I like to access it quickly so I can get right to weighting the jaw. So because of that, I would add an extra attribute for the head control that will allow me to do just that, control the jaw. So we'll get to doing that. But first, let's go ahead and work on setting up the major parts of the head, which is the actual head as well as the neck. So we know the head is going to rotate. So with our head control selected, we'll select our head joint, go up to constrain, go to orient constrain options. We do want to check out the options. Remember that we did do a few adjustments in here for other parts of our rig, the feet. So what we can do is just reset our settings and also make sure maintain offset is checked on, so everything will be in its original position when we apply this orient constraint and hit add. Simple as that. Now when we select our head control, move it around, notice we're getting the rotation that we're looking for out of our head. Wonderful. So now with this done, of course we need to set up the neck. Well, how are we going to get a chicken neck looking effect? Because that is how the neck should move. Well, we can do that by simply using an IK handle. That is going to allow us to give, or that will give us the proper functionality that we're looking for out of the neck. So we are using a basic IK RP solver, okay, with reset settings, nothing to it. We'll connect from our neck and go right to our head control. Now, if we were to go to a template mode and check it out, if we were to now move the neck, notice we're getting that chicken neck effect. Great. Cool. Well, with this done, let's go ahead and label it. We'll call this RP underscore neck, since it's our neck control, 01. From there, we can go to our outliner view, and as far as parenting this object, we're actually going to want it to be controlled by our chest. If we don't have it controlled by the chest, by a direct parent, what's going to happen is we're going to get some twisting in the neck, some bad twisting as we rotate our rig around. So in order to avoid that, with the RP solver selected, or our RP handle selected, we'll just shift select our chest and hit P. So now it's going to follow as needed. But we do want to be able to control that IK handle. So how are we going to do that with our head control? That's going to be a simple point constraint. So let's go ahead and set that up with the head control selected. We'll shift select our IK handle, go to constraint, and do a point constraint. Simple as that. So what do we get now? Now, if we select our head control and move it around, we get our chicken neck. There it is, moving nice. And we also get our rotation when we rotate the control. Great. And notice the efficiency of this control as well, controlling two objects. That's another thing we want to keep in mind, being as efficient as we can, so the animator doesn't need to work with too many controls. He might get a little annoyed at that. So we have now an efficient control, and it's moving the way we'd like it to. We can go to our chest and test that out. All right. Now, if you notice, everything seems to be working right, but what about the neck? Well, that needs to go someplace too. That needs to be controlled by the rest of our rig too. Okay, not just the IK handle, but the actual neck bone. So what we can do with this is simply constrain it to this chest piece by a parent constraint. Nothing much to that. So with our chest control selected, we can shift select our neck and go to constrain, parent constraint. Nothing much to it. So now when we select our chest, move that around, notice it's going to control just as we need it to. Great. Well, there is our head setup, and of course we did discuss the jaw, so let's go ahead and work on setting that up. With our head selected, we can go to modify, go to add attribute, and we can go ahead and use a float. So let's make sure we have that selected. We can give it a category name, so we'll select displayable, and we can call this jaw underscore control. And again, this is just going to be controlling the main function of the jaw moving up and down. So with that now there, with it set to displayable, we can hit add. Now as far as what attribute will control the jaw, we can call this the basically the axis that it will control the jaw from. So that's going to be, if we select our bone, go to our rotate tool, that's going to be our Z axis. Knowing that, we will go back to our head. Let's go ahead and select that. And with it now selected, we'll call it jaw underscore Z, since it's controlling the rotate Z of the jaw, not jaw, but jaw. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and hit add. There it is. To connect it, we select our head, go to our connection editor, making sure that head piece was selected first, so it'll go on the side we need it to when we open up our connection editor. Then we could go to our jaw, reload it on the right side, open up our rotation, and connect from the jaw Z to the rotate Z. What do we get now? Well, when we select our head, notice it's moving just the way we need it to. Great. So with all of this said and done, what we're able to do now, if we were to even collapse our group node so we can see how clean everything is looking in our outliner, okay, we're also able to, if we go to our scale and test everything out there, we can see that we'll still be able to scale our character uniformly. There's nothing skewing, nothing moving out of whack or anything like that. Okay, if we go to our character move and move that around, everything's still moving fine, just the way we'd like it to, just the way it was purposed to perform. Okay, Well, with that now done, that wraps up the setup of our head. Now, what's left to do as far as the head is concerned is the eyes. We need to set that up. And we also need to set up the hat. And that's going to be cool because we're going to set up a follow switch with that so it'll follow the head or the world if we like it to. So that is the conclusion of this lesson. And of course, do want to mention that we will be getting to blend shapes for this guy, but that's going to be later on. But again, that's the finish of this lesson. And then the next, we'll get right to setting up the eyes.